Hey guys, so I finally decided to revisit the Relic of the Pact wand. It's been a while and I was looking for some reasons to do it again, but something new, and there is something new. The Impale gloves, which guarantees Impale on critical strike chance. So this is a high crit chance build, pretty much 100% crit chance build. Impale champion Relic of the Pact. Relic of the Pact has a unique skill, Blood Sacrament, which is very unique like no other skill. Instead of like costing mana or life, it reserves your life to do the damage, to scale the damage. And this is a spell, a shattering spell, physical. So in the past, I actually want to show my old builds. Relic of the Pact has been nerfed, and in the past I did two builds. One was as a chieftain. This is like, look at the EOE. The EOE of this was so satisfying. I loved playing this build specifically. It got nerfed. The EOE got nerfed. They added the cooldown a bit, which isn't that bad. And I did this as a chieftain was with the Ivory Tower. As you can see, the ES scaling. Actually, I think it was with Ivory. Maybe it was not. And also did as a Slayer. And I could do blindfolded ultimatum. Look at this. I was blindfolded. Just see which mods to select, and then just it was so fun. And it worked because essentially I was surviving with Mega Leech, and I wasn't, I guess, saving as much. Now this one is different. I believe back then we did not have Dissolution of the Flesh, but this one is using Dissolution of the Flesh. Initially I started with the Ivory Tower champion, but it had all sorts of different problems, so I switched into Dissolution of the Flesh, and my health pool is pretty massive, over 10,000 life, and in the end it would have close to 12,000 HP. But playing with Dissolution of the Flesh, it does not matter how tanky you make it to be, you will die from time to time if you get hit at the wrong time. I don't want to go into too much details, but when you play with Dissolution of the Flesh, you essentially want to have Dissolution of the Flesh, which gives up to 30% more maximum life, but it instead of taking damage into life, it reserves life, but you also lose energy shield. And then you just want Eternal Youth and Petrified Blood. Those combined mitigates how much it reserves, and then you just have to wait for 2 seconds to unreserve it. And that's the problem with this build. When you're playing and you are taking damage, it reserves life, which means Blood Sacrament kind of gets messed up, because in my case this one reserves 46% of my life in a single tick, and with second tick it reaches the maximum it can. So if you take a bit of damage in this case, you essentially start doing only one tick, and one tick means losing half of the damage. So as soon as I start taking damage, the DPS in PUB is not correct, because for some reason it calculates, this is not cast rate, this is based on cooldown, and the cooldown is 0.39 in this case, I guess, and the cooldown only happens at the end, it's not every tick. So you essentially have to look at the average hit numbers. So if we look at the average hit numbers, it goes from 3.9 million all the way to basically 2 million. So you lose half of your damage immediately, and also if you take even more damage, like 50% of your life, a bit more than that, you can't even cast. You can't even kill enemies. You have to run around like chicken. And that's the worst part. And there are ways to kind of mitigate that, and there's a lot of information in the wiki. For example, Ward does not work because Ward will get broken unless you got Unbreakable Ward. I believe you can use Molten Shell, that's why I have it on left click, and it does seem to absorb quite a lot, but I don't have enough armor. So there are lots of problems, and I could not finish leveling this build because I just kept randomly dying. There's literally nothing I can do about that other than don't get hit, which works well in Sanctum. So it hits pretty hard, but it is also pretty expensive, and it's like very, I would say, unpleasant to play. So in the end I dropped this build idea, and I'm gonna be refunding this build into Valcleave. We'll see how that's gonna turn out, but it's gonna be Slayer using the Worms belt and then the Leech from the Flask, so I may also redo that build as a Jug later on, but for now I'm gonna talk about how this build works. Oh my god, there's so much to talk about. Okay, we need 100% crit chance for these gloves, for the Impale. And I actually, when someone suggested to go with the Sandstorm Visage and Corrupted Relic of the Pact, it does give a lot of crit chance. It it makes so much easier to get enough crit chance. Otherwise, we do get crit chance by just stacking life while using Rathpith. Rathpith sacrifices 10% of your life when you trigger or use as a spell. So using like Molten Shell on left click or casting Stormbrand or Assassin's Mark will sacrifice 10% of your life. It won't kill you. It doesn't matter. The sacrifice is completely negated because we are using Dissolution of the Flesh. We also are getting a lot of increased spell damage and a lot of spell crit chance per flat life. That's why stacking life works so well with the Rathpith Globe. And then Kaom's Heart for even more maximum life. Then we do need Essence Worm to increase the reservation or make a reservation much worse essentially. So we go from 14.48% life reserve, we put this on all the way to 46%, which means it like if I remove this, it would have to tick many times for it to reach the maximum stage and get the most damage. When we put this on, it only takes 2 ticks to reach it. Now for the supports, I am using Second Wind. You want support gems that have big cost multiplier. And if you're gonna be using other supports, it's so kind of annoying to manage the reservation. There's also life reservation mastery, which you don't want to take unless you're gonna be going for a different setup. So then I'm also using life tap because it has 300% multiplier. You are not going to trigger life tap by using this skill because this skill does not cost life, it reserves life. So you're gonna have to maintain life tap with some other skill like let's say shield charge linked to life tap. But remember, whenever you have something on left click which is a spell, you will also sacrifice life. That was one of the problems with the Ivory Tower. Oh, and the last support is Awakened Brutality. I chose this build just for the Blast Sustain. Then those Impale Gloves, which also not very cheap. The boots just cover resistances. I'm also using Astral Projector, so it's actually difficult to cap resistances. That's why I'm even running Purity of Elements inside Essence Worm. This does need Pride's reservation efficiency on the helmet and also level 3 Enlighten. Because I'm running Pride, Flesh and Stone with Maim. Pretty much all the other skill kind of has to be life tap because I just barely have mana. Amulet, basically boots and belt will have to cover all the resistances. Purity of Elements is kind of a must because if you're taking any degen, Dissolution of the Flesh will keep reserving life. You have to not take any damage for 2 seconds for it to remove that reservation from the damage. So many different sources of damage over time. It's not just ignites, bleed and poison. You got caustic ground, you got burning ground, you got essence monsters with physical damage over time, aura. You got debuffs with physical damage over time. You got or here's you got like essence monsters with here's damage over time, which isn't ailment. So you literally cannot avoid all the dots. So for that reason I decided to not worry too much about it and just go as much damage as possible. I also have quite a lot of chance to deal double damage. I have Watcher's Eye, which gives 12% chance to deal double damage while using Pride aura, and I also have another 15% from Lethal Pride. The Lethal Pride is purely to give me chance to deal double damage, and I believe I have 15% chance to deal double damage, so it's 27% chance to deal double damage already. And this is level 87. At level 95 you would have almost 12k HP, I believe. Yeah, actually over 11k, depends. You can like get corrupted Kaom's Heart, you can also get corrupted gloves for like extra crit chance and something like that. And another thing that I didn't like is using Astral Projector. You have to aim all the enemies at all enemies. Without Astral Projector you kind of cast it in a nova around you, and that feels much more relaxing, but it's also a lot more dangerous because you have to get closer to enemies. With Astral Projector you can literally cast it like across the screen. I'm playing on ultra widescreen monitor, so I pretty much can cast to the side as far as I can see. So I will include Path of Building import code. I don't want to talk too much about every single item, but yeah, you essentially just want to stack life. Stacking life means getting more multiplier for the skill, getting spell damage and getting critical strike chance. You can get quite a bit of damage from this mastery, critical strike multiplier per 10 years on a shield. The only crit chance nodes that I have are these, and that's all. The rest is the Bottle Fade, and I am reaching 100% chance to crit. Almost, okay, let's say 100%, 99.68 is pretty much 100. But that is with the Bottle Fade. And like I said, with the corrupted Relic of the Pact and Sandstorm Visage, and Assassin's Mark, and 3 power charges. So yeah, it does have quite a few conditions. Oh, and you can also get Pain Attunement on a Relic, since you are always on low life and you always have like a lucky crit, because Blood Sacrament itself provides that, and you also get Leech 2% from the skill itself as well. So if I activate Pain Attunement, boom, get over 5 million average hit damage. So the damage for this build is not a problem. The problem is not taking the damage. You literally cannot get hit. And like I originally thought, that this would be great for Sanctum, because in Sanctum you naturally do not want to get hit. But also, if you get hit at the wrong time, you fail. You just die and fail. You probably don't want to play this build, but I decided to still make a video about this, just to remind you that Dissolution of the Flesh is kind of a bait. With this build you can get a lot of damage, but you're also gonna suffer and just hate every time you die, which is gonna be random. So yeah, that's pretty much all. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.